I'm David Hoke, and I'm here today with my good friend David Pate, who's the Executive Director of the Family Counseling Center. And David, we thought today we would talk about a topic that's probably affecting all of our listeners. With all the things going on around us, the COVID virus and the pandemic and the things that have impacted us there, recent unrest in our streets of cities all across the country, locally here in Nashville and Murfreesboro, and I'm sure other municipalities. There's been a lot of discussions and things about issues of the world and control of our lives and how authorities are oppressing us in different ways and things of that nature. We thought we'd just talk about the impact of that on our health today.
Well, thank you, David. It is a real joy for us to have this conversation because I believe these conversations are happening all around us anyway. And people are wondering, is it something wrong with me? I feel this, or my friend feels that. How do I relate my feelings and emotions in a sometimes in a well, most of the time we want to do it in a positive way, but sometimes we just have a lot of emotion about something. We have a lot of opinions that we need to share. And how do we do that? So I break it down into working with couples for over 30 years. I've broken it down into two ways that they can have this conversation, and sometimes we call that the venting or the giving information and needing information back. So I asked the wife to talk to the husband because us guys, we're programmed. If you're talking to us about something, then you want us to fix something. You want us to do something about it. When a lot of times our wives only want to be heard. They just need to vent without trying to fix it. And so my wife's taught me over the years, and we've talked about it, that if you need to just vent so I don't try to fix it, just say, honey, I need to vent a minute. And I go, okay, turn mind off, listen. Honey, I've got a concern or an issue I need some help with, turn mind on, be into the fix it mode. But 95% of the time, I just need to vent. I need to talk about what's on my heart. And that's in a small society of a relationship, but in a large society like we're living in now, we've got a lot of that. People wanting to vent. They want their voices to be heard. And sometimes it comes out with a lot of emotion. And how do we have a discussion or conversation without it becoming so negative? And that's where I think the problem is, even from the family to our communities, our state, and our nation. It's been built on, for years, us having the right to say what we think, the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And then, when does that hurt someone else? Do I have the freedom to go into a crowded theater and yell fire? You know, that's the old example that's given. There are limits, and there are ways that our freedoms can hurt other people. And that's the line that we've got to find out where we don't cross.
Yeah, thinking back to the virus itself and the issues there, I'm amazed at how many people may hold the same view in terms of the severity or the impact in my given community. Yet, as those two people that would be aligned begin to sit down and talk, David, they have a little nuances they're looking at. And like right now, when do I wear a mask and when do I not wear a mask? Well, you may both have the same opinion about the severity or the risk you're at for the disease, but you may have a very different opinion on who should wear a mask and when you should wear a mask, and all those confusions. And it's been a really challenging time, I think, for everybody to communicate. And you do a lot of things to give to other people and to help them and to listen to them, but you don't want your rights infringed upon. And we saw the same things, I think we did, at least from my perspective, in some of the follow up to the recent unrest in the streets. That we all agree that there's been oppression from police at different times, and it's really affected all races, not just one or two races. But when it comes to working that out, you got some people who want to talk about it peacefully. Some others want to use that for an excuse for violence, and it just brings stress and heightened anxiety, I think, for everybody. And so how do we cope with that? And back to what you talked about, the example of sometimes just listening and not needing to respond to what the other person's saying, versus sometimes need to have a rational discourse.
Well, the key word there you use is rational, using our minds more than our emotions. And that's critical in whether you're in a relationship situation or political situation or a national emergency type situation. And being able to understand those differences is important. I believe everyone has a right to feel the way they feel. I don't believe a person can have a wrong feeling because it's their feeling. I may not agree with it, I may not like it, but it is their feeling, it is their emotion. And I chuckle because occasionally I'll hear someone say, well, David, you shouldn't feel that way, or you shouldn't be thinking that way. And I'll look at them and smile and say, well, since you're me, how should I feel or think? You know, they kind of back up a minute and go, well, I need to think about that. Because what we feel and think is so important. We do need to be able to accept, or not just accept what we feel and think, but express what we feel and think in the freedom and safety to do so. We can have a difference of opinion about colors of a room, but that doesn't make me liking blue and you liking green enemies. We have different tastes, different things that attract us, appeal to us. And we're different people, and that's okay. But we've got to find a way to disagree. We don't all have to have the same opinion about everything. That's what makes our country great. It was founded on difference of opinions. And we work with that. And we can work with each other to find some way to meet in the middle. But what's going on right now, it's the past few months of the pandemic, and then we're people who have had freedom to go and come and dress how we want to and make decisions as we want to. And that has been curtailed greatly due to the pandemic. And then you have other things that happen with violence against human beings by authority figures that is just kind of lit the fire. The fuel has always been there over the past few months because we have not been able to go as we please, speak as we please. We have to wear a mask or not wear a mask. We can't go out to eat. We can't go to work. And it's just built up, and then you have the unemployment, the fear. People have opinions and they want to be heard. And when you start repressing a person's ability to function normally, whatever, what it used to be, we don't adjust that well. We're creatures of habit. I don't like to admit I'm a creature of habit, but I am. And when I get out of my comfort zone, I'm not comfortable at all. Because we need that time. So being able to talk and being able to be heard, whether we agree or disagree. But now we're not able to disagree without causing someone to feel angry or hurt or disillusioned. And so that is where the spark comes from. And when that's lit, if over the years, if I hadn't let my wife speak her mind, I just shut her down, then she will blow up. And she has in the past given me an earful, and I needed it. I deserved it.
I deserved it.
A well-deserved. And that's what I'm seeing in a larger scale. So how do we have a civil discussion?
I think, David, obviously you have different professional training and a lot of different experience than I have in this, but I've begun to look at things to some degree, realizing that if I'm, who am I sitting across from if I'm having a discussion? Is it a person that needs the facts? I'm a facts guy. If you look at one of the disc type personality things, I need the facts and details. Or somebody else is, as you've talked about the emotion, maybe more set to making decisions based upon how they feel. And the other thing that I try to keep in mind is every one of us have had different experiences. No matter where I have my baseline of being a fact-driven person, kind of like you think of an engineer and such, but on top of that, I have a life of experiences based upon not just how many years I've lived, but how I've lived and things I've had opportunity to do. So we would all, I guess, process who we are, how we were made in our mind and things of that nature, and even in our heart, and then factor that in with the experiences. So, the same person with even the same skill set or the same character I have, or maybe that's not the same trait, being this fact thing, my experience is going to be very, very different. So I still would process information differently than another person.
Right.
And that's where recognizing we're all differently. You can't expect even your kids to follow and act exactly how you do, or think how you do, or process through a situation in the same way.
But being able to respect the
Absolutely.
other person is the key. You can have your opinion. I don't have to agree with your opinion, but that doesn't have to separate us from being friends.
Right.
It doesn't have to separate a community. We all agree that some things are wrong. Now, we may not always agree on how to handle those things, but hurting a child is wrong. Abusing a child is wrong. I think that's universal for most of us. But there are some things that we will disagree on that is important, but it's not essential to a healthy relationship. It's not essential to a healthy friendship. And it's not essential necessarily for a community to all agree that this person should be mayor or this person should be governor. We don't. I've never seen an election in my lifetime where 100% agreed on the same person that was elected. But the majority rules. That's our tradition. And when that happens, the President of the United States, for instance, over the years, I vote. I believe in that. Our son served in the military for a number of years to protect that right. I may not voted for the guy that was president, that was elected president, but I respect the office, and whoever's elected, that's my president. I may not like policies of that person or that individual personally, but it's okay. He's the one that was elected, and I will respect the office. Like I want to respect your opinion. I don't have to agree with it. I don't even have to like it, but it's your opinion. If I respect you, I want you to respect me, and that means we have to be able to communicate. Give our positions, talk about what our thoughts and feelings are and why, and we can walk away learning about each other rather than you are going to believe the way I believe and you're going to think the way I think. And that's where I think we cross the line with a relationship or society or a country.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask you to kind of wrap up because our time has flown by here, but David, I think you just did it. So let me kind of summarize for a couple of seconds and then you can finish it up for us. But as we're talking about our reactions as people and trying to talk with one another and together work our way through these things that for many of us are kind of unprecedented, or at least coming to a different light coming in front of us. And in this day and age, we see things on TV and we hear all different kind of discussions. And unfortunately, maybe some things we've heard on the virus itself and the pandemic has changed from week to week. And what we thought was the protocol to live 2 months ago has changed because the CDC's changed their mind, and so on and so forth. But as we talk about coping with that and talking to one another and working through it, I think that what I've heard out of our conversation here is respect, how important that is of the person you're talking with. And, thinking back, if you're wanting to protest, screaming to the person across from you is just there to be the security, and the event's kind of meaningless, other than the fact you get a chance to vent your voice out. But the person in front of you has nothing to do with that. It hasn't been a part of that. But the key here, I think, is, from what I've heard us talk about, is really the respect and to listen to others and realize when you're talking to somebody, you're not talking to somebody that's put together the same as you, that processes information the same as you, that has the exact same feelings you do, and respect's the key word. Am I making it too simple?
I think the more simple, the better for us to understand, and that's where we start.
Great. Well, this has been another episode of Stepping into Life, and that's what we're all doing every day. My thanks to David Pate from the Family Counseling Center for joining me today, and look forward to talking to you all the next time we can gather together and explore ways that we can improve our lives, improve the lives of the communities in which we live.